Right, good evening, colleagues. Welcome everyone to another fun-packed meeting of the Derbyshire Dales Local Plan Committee, Wednesday 21st of January 2026. We don't have an audience today, so we'll dispense with the normal introductions, save for a colleague on my far right here, Matt Bowers, who Esther will introduce shortly. Just to remind everyone, though, there is no fire alarms planned for this evening, so if the alarm does go off, we need to leave by the nearest fire exit. So Freya, apologies for absence, number one on the agenda, please.
Thank you, Chair. We've received apologies from Councillor Lucy Peacock.
Thanks. Moving on to item 2, that's our...
Councillor Dermot has got a meeting prior to this, so he's running late. Okay.
Are you recording his apologies or not? Yeah, okay. If he turns up, we'll strike them off, yeah. Moving on to item 2, which is the minutes of our previous meeting, which was on the 3rd of December last year, 2025, which were found on pages 3 to 6 of the agenda. Unless anyone's got any questions on that, could we have someone who would move approval of that, please? Peter Dobbs, Councillor Dobbs.
Happy to move that, Chair.
Just second that,
Bates,
Chair.
Anthony, thank you very much. Anybody got anything to say, like to say, or debate on that? If not, can we have all those in favour of approval?
Well, it depends whether it's officially here or not.
Right, that was approved. Thanks very much, colleagues. Moving on to item 3, public participation. I think, Freya, we have no one to speak this evening. Right, item 4, interest. Anyone want to declare an interest? No, fine. Item 5, questions. I've not received any questions this evening, so we can move swiftly on to the business of the meeting. Item 6. This is where we now have, hopefully this will be the last meeting where we look at process, procedures and work programmes. From now on we'll be focusing purely on the content of the local plan, revised local plan. But our officers have been working really hard over the past 3 or 4 weeks since our last meeting in December to present to us a revised work programme in the light of the difficulties we know we faced, and I hope you'll agree when you've listened to it and debated it that we now have a very positive way forward looking to submission of our plan in December 2026. So Esther, would you like to introduce this item, please?
Thank you, Chair. As Councillor O'Brien's alluded to, this is the 3rd meeting where we've looked at the work programme for the preparation, consultation and hopefully submission and adoption of the revised local plan. To my right this evening is Matt Bowers. He's Director within Highest Consulting Group or Limited. They have been appointed by the District Council to help with the work programming and project management and leadership of the preparation of the local plan. Matt will present the item for you this evening and we will both answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Esther, and good evening, members. Nice to meet you all. It's not just me from Highest either. There are a team of others that sit in the background and you may meet on occasion as well. So the report in front of you details the findings from a bit of a deep dive we've done with the team, looking at where we're at with particularly the evidence base that will support the refreshed local plan, and having gone through that evidence through that deep dive, we're making a number of recommendations to you tonight around a work programme, around an updated local development scheme as on the back of that work programme, and further meetings of this committee. I've got a presentation that will I'll talk through, that mirrors the report really. So, just as a reminder, you consider a report from HIAS around the local plan in general at your meeting in December. And we made a number of recommendations to the council around things it needed to do to move the plan forward, which you've taken on board. The plan has already been through a number of rounds of public consultation in 2022 and 2024. There's a number of pieces of evidence that have been completed, and other pieces are well progressed. You've considered at your meetings previously revised wording of policies as well. So there's a lot of work that has been done already. We don't operate in isolation. There's a bigger world out there, and there's a lot going on nationally in terms of national planning policy changes and changes to the planning system, which have had and will have an influence on both the production in terms of the timetable of the new plan and the content of the new plan as well. One of the things that has become apparent or has been the government have made it very clear now is that the new planning system will be in place sometime late spring, early summer, and as part of that new planning system, local planning authorities preparing a plan under the current planning system, such as Derbyshire Dales, will only have until the end of the year to submit that plan to the Secretary of State for examination. So we've got a backstop date that we're working to, and that's the 31st of December. After that, the plan won't be able to be submitted under the current system. So there's a lot of work that's been done already, and the council are a long way through down that road of preparing the local plan. And as you heard at the meeting in December, the risks of waiting for the new system are certainly outweighed by making progress on this plan and getting it submitted and adopted as soon as possible. So in terms of why we've looked at the evidence base and why it's important, that's because the plan must be based on robust, sound and up-to-date evidence. So any requirements in policy, the strategy, we need to be able to demonstrate to the planning inspectorate how we've come to that conclusion and how decisions have been taken on the plan. There are a lot of interdependencies between the evidence base as well, so we might pick up shortly. Some of the pieces of evidence are waiting for other pieces to finish. There are some pieces of work that can't be done until the plan is essentially written, so the sustainability appraisal, which will accompany the plan when it goes out for public consultation. There are stages of the essay that take place before that, but that'll be one of the last things that gets done. So what we've been doing is reviewing where those various pieces of evidence are, how far progressed they are, what still needs to be done, what are those interdependencies. So I think it's important to say that as the chair noted at the beginning, you're in a good place in terms of knowing what evidence you need. Some of it has already been completed. A significant proportion is nearly complete, and there are some outstanding pieces of evidence which have been scoped out and have been commissioned and are starting to go in progress. There may be some other pieces of evidence that as we move along, we think it might be helpful to have this as well. But at the moment, I'm confident that the core pieces of evidence that will support the production of the plan are moving forward. So accompanying the report tonight in the appendix is a bit of a short summary of that review we've done in table form, which is currently shown on screen as well. These are just the pieces of evidence that are still live, so we haven't looked at the ones that have already been completed yet, although we will be doing that. So what we've noted here is what the evidence base is, what theme it is, a bit of an overview around the work that's involved in doing that, any issues or any risks associated with that evidence, and potential timescales and interdependencies. And in the final column, somewhat scarily, is a bit of a RAG rating, and people get drawn to that immediately. That's really for our benefit, to help us to prioritise where we need to collectively put our efforts into concluding those pieces of evidence. So I won't go through them line by line because they're in your report, but they range from work around assessing sites, infrastructure, employment land, retail, housing, sports, the essay we've talked about, the design code that you can that is currently up for consultation, viability, and matters such as BNG. So we've reviewed all of those. We've spoken to various consultants who are doing those pieces of work, and we've got a good idea of when those pieces of work will be complete now. And that's helped us to inform a detailed work programme, which I think is Appendix 1 of your report tonight, and it's printed out on the desk in a format that hopefully is a bit easier to see, because it is quite small type. But what we've done here is just pull out some of those key dates in that work programme on a monthly basis, and also highlight when meetings of this committee and when you should be receiving further briefings on that evidence. So it is a tight programme. I think we said that back in December. It's a challenge, but it is one that is realistic, we feel. So working backwards from that December date, we're giving ourselves 3 months really to pull all the responses we get to public consultation together and finalise the plan and make sure the plan's in a position to send it off to the Secretary of State. So that therefore dictates that consultation takes place before then for a period of 6 weeks, August and September. And we're looking at a date in July for Council to approve that final document to go out for consultation and then submission. So working before that, realistically, for the essay to be completed, we really need to be finishing the plan, the draft plan, around May time. So everything else really falls backwards from that. So we've set a timetable where we're aiming to have a draft plan ready for you in June, and draft policies, some of which you've already considered. So they're the key dates. After we submit in December, it's a little bit, well, it is out of our hands then. So it's the planning inspectorates will control the programme. We anticipate that we'll have an examination public in the summer. That could be early summer, hopefully early summer. If we have hearing sessions, that's their hearing sessions, public hearing sessions in the summer, we'd anticipate that there would be work after that. There's no plan that's been through examination that isn't required to do something. And if there are then required to be main modifications that are consulted on, we're looking at doing that towards the end of the year with a view to adopting the plan by March 2028. So it feels a long way away, but that will go quite fast. And I think experience recently at other examinations has shown that if the council can move swiftly on, and will move swiftly, I'm sure, on any request from the inspectors, they will seek to get plans adopted as soon as possible. And the government have written to the planning inspectorate and asked them to do that and to make sure that examinations are not prolonged indefinitely. Something which I know is very important to the committee is around communication with local communities on the local plan. So one of the next things which should happen after the council have considered the LDS is communication with the various parish and town councils. To that end, there's a press release that's currently being drafted on the back of the LDS. And some communications in spring to make sure that people are kept informed of the work that's been done and is continuing to be done, and the direction of travel really for the plan. I've mentioned a few times the LDS, a revised LDS, so that's scheduled to go to full council next Thursday, the 29th. And that really just reflects those key dates that were on the slide previously. So okay?
Thank you, Matt, for that. That was very helpful. You'll note, colleagues, that there's, you've seen a number of informal sessions on that timetable there. I think previously those informal sessions we've had during the plan process have been very helpful. We have to bear in mind that they're not decision-making meetings. They're there for us to have an open and frank discussion and share thinking. What I would say, Anthony, if your group wants to have any separate discussions outside of the process, then please feel free to approach officers, and then I'm sure they'll see if they can fit you in. So we do like to try and ensure that members from across the council are fully engaged in the process. Right, questions for Matt or Esther? Martin.
Looking at the timetable, I'm a little concerned about the chances of having adequate consultation with the public starting in August, but that's be August the 1st, I guess, to the middle of September for 6 weeks. And we've had this situation before where we've had consultation on some major proposals in August. Of course, the first complaint we get is from parish council, like they don't have a meeting in August, children are off school, families are going away, etc. So they don't have 6 weeks at all in order to look at the proposals and comment effectively. So I wonder if, when Matt says we've got September, October, November for looking at all the comments and so on, we won't actually have in reality that length of time at all. So I'm a bit concerned about that, because I've seen it before in the past with various major proposals where we've been accused of not giving adequate time for the public to comment.
Yeah, understand the concerns. I think one of the reasons we want to get the communication out now is to make parish councils and other bodies aware that this will be coming, so give them time to prepare for that. It may be that they don't want to have their meeting towards the back end of that 6 weeks anyway, to give them time to review the plan itself. So at the moment we're timetabling that for August, September, so there should be time in September for those meetings to take place. But we are governed by that strict 31st of December date, unfortunately. If we moved it closer to December, I have concerns about our ability to review all the comments, respond to them, and there is a lot of administration involved in processing the comments, so they're in a format for the planning inspectorate to accept. So we do really need to read all of those comments and give ourselves time to do that, prepare a response, and also, there may be something in there which we need to reflect on and change. We need to give ourselves time to do that, and I think if we pushed it back any later, we wouldn't have that.
Back, Chair, and ask if that's going to be the situation, which it obviously is. Are we intending to start the consultation at the beginning of August? Can we guarantee we'll have all the draft plans and proposals ready before August, so that we can go all guns blazing, if you like, with the consultation from the beginning of August.
That's what we're aiming to do.
Right.
Yes, that's what we're aiming to do. Clearly, there'll be a lead-in time to that consultation, and things will be in the public domain before then. So, when there'll be the full plan that will be before full council. So, it'll be in the public domain when it goes to full council. We're anticipating bringing to this committee, if not a full draft, then something very close to it. So, by the point that this committee is seeing those drafts, then not a lot's really going to change or have chance to change in the plan. So those groups, parish councils, individuals, developers as well, will get a flavour for it before the sort of more formal 6-week consultation commences.
Thanks, Martin. That's a key issue, and yes, we're addressing it head on, and we'll be releasing some information on that this week so that people can pre-prepare. Peter Dobbs.
Thank you, Chair. Matt, thank you. It's really just some clarification on the summary of position and the evidence base with the RAG ratings. It's really just if you could help me understand quite what is meant in the second column. So if I take the settlement hierarchy, the second row, as it were, I don't quite know what that alludes to. To be honest, that's probably my fault, but if you could clarify what that means, that would be very helpful. Thank you. The section which begins, members have sought further detailed information, etc.
Sorry, can you hear me now? So I understand that this committee have asked officers to look at more information, provide more information on how that settlement hierarchy is being pulled together, or that assessment of settlements. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I don't know if you can recall when it was presented to you, probably October time last year. Various comments were made in this committee and then followed up in writing from various members about amendments that needed to be made to the settlement hierarchy and the evidence base. So I think Matt's just picking up there the fact that there's still some work for it to be completed. And then we need to use that to inform the development strategy and where that directs development to go to in terms of the most sustainable locations and how that fits together. I believe that's the point that Matt's trying to get in that second column about key issues and risks.
Right, it was particularly, if I may come back to clarify, may not be consistent with the adopted strategy. I'm not quite sure what that meant.
It was to make sure that it is consistent. So part of the work we need to do is to understand. We need to understand: is the settlement hierarchy in the adopted plan, which you're reviewing, is that still the case out there? Is that still have services and facilities? Have they shut down? Have new ones opened? It's making sure that we're clear that the assessment of the settlements is the same, or it's up to date, and does that have any impact on what the hierarchy is? I'm not envisaging it will do, but it's an issue we need to look at as officers and just understand more fully, really.
Right. I mean, would I be right in assuming then there may be some, what we queried, I think what I queried, is the mechanism for deriving the numerical data which gives you the hierarchy from which we derive the tiering. Are you saying that the implications of the tiers will remain, which is, of course, a very big impact on our settlement hierarchy, really? Which tier they go in from this mechanism does seem to have a very profound effect as where we direct development or have historically directed development. Is the argument that we're going to change that at all, or is it just that if the mechanism produces a different answer, we've got to do something to make sure it gives the same answer we had before? I'm not quite sure what is implied by this. If that doesn't sound too convoluted.
It's your latter point, really. We need to look at it and understand it, and what does that mean? So, you know, if a settlement has suddenly you know, got more facilities and services, does it move up that hierarchy? But equally, that's different. The hierarchy is different to what the strategy is. So there's a point that says, well, what is the hierarchy? And then there's another piece of work which we need to do, which is looking at the strategy and understanding what the implications are. So I think it's your second point, really. We need to get under the skin of it, and we need to understand exactly what the picture out there is. And I think some work was done last year, asking parishes to help that understand that baseline, and then we can bring that back to you and we can talk that through at a later date.
Thank you very much. May have one further question, which is really just out of curiosity, and that is in the SHLA, call for sites to remain open until the end of January, etc. At this point in time, is it appropriate, helpful, allowed to give a sort of, well, compared where we were 6 months ago, have we gained any, have we lost any, where are we? Is that permissible? This is really just curiosity. Thank you, Chair.
We did a sort of soft touch PR before Christmas, inviting any further sites to be suggested to the district council for consideration. I think we've had less than 5 suggested in that intervening period. So there's not an awful lot of new sites been suggested to us over and above those that you've been made aware of previously, and will be made aware of when we finish the SHLA assessment work.
And am I allowed to know if any have been withdrawn since previously, or is that not something?
Yeah, some sites have been withdrawn since they were originally submitted. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head which ones they are, but we will make you aware when we report the outcomes of the SHLA. But yes, certain sites have been withdrawn. The landowners have made us aware that they don't want them to be considered any further.
I think PT will find the informal workshops useful to discuss the relationship between the development strategy and the settlement hierarchy, and whether we change direction from the current settlement strategy. Roger.
Thank you, yes. And I can see this is an immensely complex juggling act for which, you know, I don't envy you at all, really. I think my nervousness, though, stems from having been a project manager in some instances, not with anything like this before, seeing a timetable like this with what are slightly floating dates, and some of that may be just inevitable. But even between these two documents, there's very, very slight mismatches. So it suggests that on this one, that the SHLA is going to be finished at the end of January 26, but on the Gantt chart, SHLA is ongoing until the end of the second week, February. And, you know, you may say that's just 2 weeks, but I think we all appreciate that if this is going to be achieved, it has to be run with the, perhaps I was going to use the word efficiency of a railroad. That may be an unfortunate comparison, but nevertheless, that's what we're facing, isn't it? You know, it's hugely difficult. And what I find hard to follow on this is that any of the dependencies aren't necessarily pointed out. So whilst there's some allusion to that in this, you can't see on the chart in front of you what has to be absolutely completed before something else is carried out. So that's my nervousness, which you might well go some way to reassuring me about. The other thing I think is, particularly with a reference to the consultation with the public, and that taking place over the August-September period, I echo Councillor Burfoot's concerns there. But I noticed that we aren't scheduled to have a meeting after that period either. Now that may be simply because they're not factored in yet, but I would assume that we will also get a chance as a committee to receive the amendments that you make as a result of the consultation that takes place and be able to comment on that. Is that reasonable? not trying to be awkward.
No, not at all. And both very valid points. And actually, you know, in terms of the work programme and how it appears visually, it has been a challenge to, you know, from just trying to make sure that you can read it and be something useful. In a past life, I used to use Microsoft Project quite a lot, and you could do these nice arrows, and it all linked. I haven't got that facility at the moment, so we're sort of having to. Hopefully, you can sort of see there's a bank of pieces of evidence, of which the SLAR is one, which we're anticipating will be finishing Jan-Feb. But then, there's another bank of evidence which we've got about 4 weeks between February and March. So really, they're all waiting for the SLAR. So once we've got the SLAR, those pieces of evidence can be completed. So they follow on, hopefully, in the Gantt chart. With a bit more time, might reorder this so you can see it in a nice stepped approach. Some of the pieces of work that you sort of may say, well, that's just down for 6 months. That's not particularly insightful or helpful. Some of these do take that long, and there are stages within them as well. So they may, like the essay, for example, there are various points in time where there'll be work done, there'll be a break, then there'll be another work done. Quite hard to show visually, but hopefully through these meetings we'll be able to communicate that to you more clearly. In terms of the future dates for this committee, we haven't included them on the work programme because they're not set. I think it'd be helpful to report back to you and give you an idea in the autumn around what the consultation responses have said. I think just to be clear, the officers can't amend the plan, or the council can't amend the plan before it's submitted. What goes to public consultation at Reg 19 is the plan that you want to submit. So we can't make changes after that date.
So is that July?
Yeah. What we can do is we can propose modifications as we submit it. So we can say to the inspectorate, well, look, we've had these responses back, and there are areas where the language could be tidied up, or where there's a typo, or where actually a piece of, you know, something might be referred to incorrectly. And so we are able to do that, and I think that might be something helpful to the committee if we're able to do that in sort of autumn time, is to be able to be clear around where the responses to the consultation, what the responses to the consultation say, and what our proposed response and action to that is. But I think it's helpful. I think, you know, just to be clear, officers aren't going to go away and sort of change parts of the plan on the back of the consultation. We can't do that. It would have to go back out to consultation again.
Just a quick comeback as well on the subject of the news release particularly for communities and parish councils. I think you said that the local development strategy, that's being confirmed by full council on the 29th. So would we expect the news release to come out immediately following that meeting?
I think we're intending to send it out tomorrow. I think on your point there, Roger, obviously the team have been focusing on the immediate work. You're right. There is some further consideration to be given to what we do with the process after the consultation, and how and when members are involved with that. So that will become clearer later in the process. But we've asked the team to focus on getting on with the work now, and then we'll, as I said, we'll engage on the next stage of the process nearer the time.
And could I just query what an SFRA is again, please?
It's a strategic flood risk assessment.
David Hughes.
Thank you, Peter. Matt, your comments on the on reminding me, at least, because I should have remembered this, that the plan that is submitted is the one that goes out for consultation, makes the evidence base quite important, because if the evidence base is in any way wrong, then we will be putting forward a plan that will receive a lot of consultation responses, identifying where our evidence base is out of kilter, and that suggests the need for early provision of draft documents that will lead up to the draft plan being prepared, or the submitted plan being prepared, so that we can at least get some response back from the public. But the other issue is then the extent of the evidence base and how consultants like Arcadis get access to that evidence base. Because I mean, we talked about this earlier, but in terms of the evaluation of the SLAR sites and infrastructure, there will have been some evidence come in subsequent to the reports that were produced on the sites originally, and any earlier work done on services, particularly water and sewage, and there will be at least anecdotal evidence from a number of sources that might need to be followed up with further work in order to determine whether that anecdotal evidence is correct or not. But so in terms of evidence, first of all, can we confirm that the results of the information that comes in from planning applications and appeals and so on associated with sites that will be put forward, will be taken into consideration in the evaluation of those sites? And in terms of infrastructure, will local parish councils and others be consulted to, and their information be used to, in some respects, confirm or refute what may or may not be coming forward from a desk-based research? And following on from that, there's a number of studies done in terms of drainage in Derbyshire Dales that need to be undertaken, that need to figure in the evaluation of individual sites. Will those drainage reports be considered as well? How is Arcadis going to be told about the information that we have, or we would expect our parish councils to and others to provide?
We can feed back that anecdotal evidence to appointed consultants and ask them to look at particular areas or particular themes in more detail. Typically around things such as the SFR, they will be working on information from the Environment Agency and from the LLFA and other sources. So I don't know, I've looked at SFRAs before. They include within that incidences of surface water flooding, for example, where they've been recorded. So they'll make sure they've got as much information as possible to come up to produce their piece of work. And if there are particular areas that members have concerns about, we're happy to feed those back to them. We won't be consulting parish councils directly on that matter. But again, if there are, if parishes do want to raise those or flag those up, we can do that. I think Esther, can you add to that?
What I would just add, when we started to look at the SLAR sites, we did consult town and parish councils and asked them if there were any sort of infrastructure showstoppers that would prevent those sites coming forward. So we have engaged at that point and got views from the relevant town and parish councils going forward, which will be fed into the assessment work that we're still to undertake.
Okay. On another subject, housing need assessment, and that will feed through to the housing requirement for the local plan. We've got a sort of strategy now, as development strategy, have we not, in terms of a stepped approach, and that will need justifying in a number of ways, we've talked about a topic paper concerned with real market demand for housing and demand for sites from developers to justify or help support the stepped approach that we're putting forward. I mean, the stepped approach is there really because the number of sites that we have will not meet the 460 houses that we are required to, on average, to provide each year, but could meet a proportion of that requirement in the early years. So, can we confirm that that approach, a topic paper to support the stepped approach, could be developed?
Yes, I mean we haven't concluded around a stepped approach. It's likely that may be maybe what the plan needs to do around housing delivery. We think it would be helpful to provide topic papers on a number of topics, and principally housing being one of them, that can provide a sort of a bit more of a wider range of thought and pointing the inspectors to pieces of evidence to support what the plan says and what the strategy is when we get to that point. So I think topic papers can be a really helpful tool to summarise and bring together a number of pieces of evidence that we'll need to rely on.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions from colleagues? No? Okay. We've got 3 recommendations. Well, I would say we've got quite a detailed project plan in front of us here, but of course beneath that there is actually a much more detailed, if you like, a day-by-day project plan, which we don't need to see as members, but that's what Harris and the team will be working to. So we feel like got a summary as a much more detailed, as a day-by-day work plan, which is what needed. And certainly the leadership of the council is I think, as we know, is fully committed to supporting the delivery of the local plan against this timetable. So the leadership will also be kept up to speed with progress in a supporting way. So we've got 3 recommendations on the table here. We'll take them one by one. Roger, I noted that we started the meeting as you came through the door. So you were here for the duration of the meeting. Matt, you weren't, I'm afraid. So I think I'm right, Christy, in saying that...
yeah, Matt, I'm not sure whether Councillor Shelley was here when I thought the introduction...
Well, I noted him coming through the door as we got into the meeting. But I didn't note Councillor Buckler, so Matt, I'm afraid you aren't able to put your hand up. So recommendation 1, would someone like to move that recommendation? Moved by Councillor Burthorpe, seconded by Councillor Dobbs. Anyone? Any questions or comments? Move to a vote. All in favour? Any abstentions? That's carried. Thank you. Recommendation 2. As we know, the local development scheme is the legalistic framework which we have to work to That's why that's a separate recommendation. This is a decision of the council, which is then submitted to government to ensure we're compliant with the legislation. So that's why this is shown as a separate recommendation. And if members have got further questions on that, they can ask that and debate that at the council meeting on the 29th, which is next a week tomorrow, isn't it? So do we have a proposer for recommendation 2? Councillor Dobbs. Would anyone like to second that? Councillor Bates, thank you. All in favour? And that's unanimous again. Recommendation 3. This, as we see, is the additional meetings and workshops which the officer team and Matt and his colleagues have proposed that as we take forward the plan through the next 6 months. Anyone propose that, please? Councillor Burfoot, thank you again. Councillor Dobbs. All those in favour? Thank you again, colleagues. Right, that concludes the business of the meeting. Thank you for that. Again, as I've emphasised, hopefully this is the last purely business meeting we'll have. The next time we come together, we have informal meetings beforehand. So we encourage everyone to attend. If you can't attend, please try to ensure your substitutes can come along, and then we will move into a series of formal meetings. It's a terrible evening when I left home, so hopefully it's cleared up a bit, and have a safe journey home.